What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the AFC South Roundtable. We are back once again. How are you feeling today, Ruben?
Feeling blessed and highly favored. This is like my second favorite moment of the week, man.
I love it. I love it. UCF, how about you, man?
I'm feeling fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. I can't wait for this episode.
Derek, talk to me, man. How's things going?
Things are going good, man. Can't wait to debate this topic, man. It's going to be something.
Well, what about you, Michael? How's everything going?
Ready to party, man. Let's get going.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about the biggest offseason needs for each team and why. These guys are going to tell us what their team needs the most and why they need it pretty bad to make them a better team next year. We're not going to waste time. We're going to get ready to dive in, but right before we do, make sure that you check out Roundtable Sports merch, where you can get all of your Roundtable merchandise, especially AFC South specific merch. All right. We still have the AFC South Championship shirts. We have the CJ Strouds, the Will Levises. We have the Anthony Richardson still on deck. Even the Trevor Lawrences are available. Make sure that you check them out, ladies and gentlemen. Cop your shirts today. The link is in the description of the video, and make sure that you subscribe to the channel and let your friends and family members know about it. Well, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start from the bottom and work our way up to the top, okay?
Like
Let's start with Michael, because we know the Tennessee Titans, like, they have all kind of needs. But what is the biggest need for the team, and why is that?
Well, it's quite simple. It's the offensive line. This team needs to find protection for Will Levis if he's going to be the quarterback of the future. You can't do anything without an offensive line, and it's all about foundation. So this team's going to have to go out, spend a little bit of money, look in the draft, and try and add some pieces to get this thing built back the right way. But there is some silver lining there. Tennessee went out and got arguably one of the best offensive line coaches from the Cleveland Browns in Bill Callahan. So that's going to make a very easy transition for these guys, teach them how to play the position right. So if Tennessee can spend some of that cash in the right places, get this offensive line solidified, it's just build up from there.
So what position on the O-line do you think is the priority?
Well, I mean, like the biggest position of need, it's left tackle. You have to keep your quarterback's blind side protected, and the best tackle right now in the draft arguably might be Joe Alt. So a lot of draft predictions have him landing in two-tone blue, and I think that's the best fit going forward.
So do you personally think he'll be there at your pick?
I mean, right now you look at a lot of the needs that some of the other teams at the top have. You know, I could see three quarterbacks going right in that order, because you look at teams like Washington and the Patriots, and even with the Bears right now, you know, there's just great quarterback options right there. So that seems like the most obvious position to go for. The Bears could trade out, and that complicates things, but still, Caleb Williams definitely seems like one of those once-in-a-generation talents from some evaluation, so it's worth the risk if they're willing to take it. You look at other teams like the Giants, I think they're trying to add wide receiver help. Right now with the Chargers, they could go tackle right there, but I do think, you know, a talent like Brock Bowers is too good to pass up. And Jim Harbaugh is trying to look for some younger, fast weapons to try and get that team in the right position. So Tennessee looks like they could be sitting in a position to have their pick of the litter with the tackles. And I'd have to go with Joe Alt in this take.
Let me ask you this before we move on. Do you think that it would be smarter to get that tackle in the draft or free agency?
Well, right now there's no solid left tackles in free agency. I mean, some people bring up Tyron Smith from Dallas, but at this point, he's looking at 34 going into next season. He's already had some of his best years. He's serviceable for a team that needs somebody to just plug him in and just not expect a whole lot from him. But the Titans need to start fresh here. And I think that's just what the whole perspective is going forward into the 2024 season. You're looking at a fresh quarterback, fresh offensive-minded coach, fresh perspective all over. So sometimes you just got to rip up some wallpaper off the wall and start putting down some new carpet and just get things looking fresh.
All right. One more for you. You got your left tackle. Without explaining why, what is that secondary need? Where do you go after that of biggest need?
Well, secondary wise, I mean, you could go really either way. And I think it either falls either between cornerback, which is a position they've struggled trying to fill in the last few years. I mean, they missed on the draft with Caleb Farley, unfortunately, where he's just too injured to be out there to make a difference. But you also look at they need to try and find a replacement at wide receiver eventually if they move off DeAndre Hopkins, either it'd be this year or after he's done with this contract year. So you need to find a guy that's able to come in and make that kind of impact going forward and build that kind of rapport with Will Levis going forward. So it's a deep wide receiver class, and you could get in the second round and see some pretty good wide receivers still sitting on the board.
Interesting. I agree. All right, Derek, it's your turn, sir. What is the Indianapolis Colts' biggest need and why? Are you muted, Derek?
Unbelievable.
Hey, be quiet, UCF, man. I'm out here doing some stuff here. All right. Well,
Yeah,
I would say the biggest needs definitely have been playmakers. I know that right now we have Jonathan Taylor, and we're looking to re-sign Michael Pittman. But at the end of the day, you need some guys on that offense that are going to make it to where Anthony Richardson doesn't have to rely upon his legs as much. And the best way to do that is to make sure that you are getting as many weapons as humanly possible to ensure he can stay in that pocket a little more and not feel the need to have to use those legs. But I'll throw out a need that I think most outside of the Colts organization don't realize. And even a lot of people in the Colts fan base don't agree with it. And that's edge rush. And I think that's crazy for me to say because Indy this last year was 5th overall in total sacks throughout the year. We just set a franchise record for most sacks in a single season in this franchise. So, I mean, you look at those numbers and at point blank, you're like, well, why is it that you say you need edge? Well, the problem was even though we had the 5th most sacks, our defensive line and mainly our edge guys were 22nd overall in total pressures. So yes, we got a lot of sacks, but overall effectiveness at getting at the quarterback, this Indianapolis Colts team does not do a great job of that. And we see it with all these other teams that have these elite edge guys. I mean, even UCF can sit there and say that he knows what it's like. Josh Allen many times can just take over a game. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. He just has that certain ability about him where regardless if he's even getting sacks, you still feel the presence of a Josh Allen. And that's one of those things where I would love for Indy to have that as an option where, we have a lot of great defensive or good defensive linemen that, I mean, we were the only team in the NFL this year that had 4 guys that had 7 or more sacks on the season. But nobody really takes over the moment. And that's where Indy really needs to try to figure that out. I don't know how we're going to do it. I doubt that you get one in the draft. There are a couple guys in free agency this year that you might end up having to trade for that could open that possibility up. I'm not even going to even just suggest the idea of Josh Allen because I don't think that's ever going to happen. Brian Burns is another one that I feel that Indy could look to try to exploit that as an option. But yeah, Chris Ballard has never really been great at getting star defensive ends. It's very hard to draft those. But yeah, it's definitely something that I think a lot of people don't think Indy needs. But if you just look at the pure numbers, Indy needs some better edge help.
If you were to give me a secondary need, what would it be?
I'm still going to go with the playmakers. I think that ultimately, again, it's about trying to get as many weapons as you can for Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen's offensive scheme. And the more playmakers you got, the better opportunity you have to be able to have this offense move much more efficiently. And I think that's what Indy definitely needs.
So you're saying wide receiver?
I mean, not even just wide receiver. I would even go tight end. I've seen a lot of people talk about Brock Bowers getting mocked to Indianapolis. If Brock Bowers is there at 15, I mean, even if he falls to the 10th spot and Indy wants to trade up to get him, I'm all for it. Brock Bowers would be an elite weapon. You're just overall looking for an elite weapon anywhere. I don't really care where that is. But as long as it's someone that is going to elevate your offense from day one, which there are a bunch of guys in this draft that can, I'm all for it.
All right. Well, before we hear from UCF and Ruben, we want you to know that this stream is being powered by BetUS, official sponsor of the AFC South. They're giving you the opportunity to receive a 125% bonus up to your first 3 deposits, up to $2,500 on BetUS. All right. All you have to do is use code JOIN125 to take advantage of the 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. It is available for you to use, those who are viewing the AFC South. All right. Now, BetUS 24/7 customer service if you have any questions. Also, 24-hour quick and easy payouts. All right. BetUS is loaded with opportunities of all sports. You got your football bets. Also, the football futures are in. Do you think your team is going to be winning a Super Bowl this year? Whether it's the Jaguars, the Houston Texans, the Tennessee Titans, or how about the Indianapolis Colts? Those odds are up. All right. BetUS has everything listed. All you have to do is go on the site. The link is in the description of the video. Not only do they have the sports book, they also have the casino, race book, and always the live betting, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a quick view of what I was talking about, especially if you like college football, the NCAAF Heisman Trophy winner odds are up for next year. The NFL draft, who do you think is going to get picked first overall? Mr. Irrelevant. The MVP award for next year in the NFL, free agency, the next team for players, NFL combine numbers. Man, what do they not have? They have everything, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you check out BetUS. Get in the game. Again, take advantage, though, of the 125% bonus. Again, code 125. Link in the description of the video. Thank you.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
BetUS, where the game begins. Now, UCF, let's hear it from you. What is the Jacksonville Jaguars' biggest need going into this offseason and why?
Oh, man, this one's actually really, really easy for me. It's definitely interior offensive line, and that includes left guard, center, and right guard. I mean, last year, the Jaguars down the stretch were just awful at running the football. I mean, it was one of the worst run games I've ever seen from the Jaguars in that stretch. And we're talking about the Jaguars, guys. I've seen a lot of bad football from this damn team, but it was just awful down the stretch. So you got to fix that. And of course, you guys all remember December. 1 week Trevor Lawrence gets an ankle injury. The next week he gets a concussion. The next week he gets like a knee injury, and then all of a sudden he injures his shoulder. Look, this offensive line just couldn't keep him clean. I mean, he would drop back, and there was like immediate pressure in his face. And, you know, you're talking about your franchise quarterback, that the most important person in the Jaguars organization is Trevor Lawrence, and we did not have the personnel to be able to protect him. So, I mean, I could very well see, you know, this upcoming season there being 2 brand new starters on the interior of the offensive line, maybe even 3 brand new starters. I mean, that whole thing needs a revamp. Now, granted, the Jaguars drafted right tackle Anton Harrison in the first round last year, and he was spectacular. I mean, I'm really hard on Trent Baalke, but he hit that one out of the park. And, you know, we probably have Walker Little on the last year of his deal playing left tackle. But, you know, there are positions out there like, okay, like, yeah, we might need cornerback. But, you know, if they go without really addressing, then, okay, whatever. You know, maybe even like wide receiver. But you absolutely have to bring in some bodies on the interior of this offensive line, or else things will, you know, get bad, and you'll see an injured Trevor Lawrence play. And unfortunately, an injured Trevor Lawrence is not good enough to be able to win consistently in the NFL.
So is it safe to say your first and secondary need will stay in the interior O-line?
Well, I mean, the interior offensive line, I mean, sometimes you can, draft a guard and they can play center. Sometimes you can draft a center and they can play guard, whatever. But bring in some bodies in there, some guys that can fill these different positions. I mean, you need a new center. The Jaguars center was just awful. I mean, the Jaguars' last offensive play on the season, Trevor Lawrence tried to do a quarterback sneak against the Tennessee Titans, and they got nowhere. And the reason for that is because our center got pushed 5 yards back behind the line of scrimmage. Okay, he was getting bullied all season. He was just he's got like 3 different engineering degrees, but the guy's a dumbass on the football field, has no football IQ, and he's weak as hell. Okay, so he needs to be gone. No more Luke Fortner. Get him out of here, and we'll move forward. Hopefully, we draft the dude from Oregon in the first round, the Austin Jackson Powers or whatever. That's who I'm hoping for right now. A brand new, a Samoan set. You can never go wrong with a Samoan offensive lineman, right? I think that's what the Jaguars need.
So one more question in regards to the O-line, then, if that's the biggest need. You know that your team is in a win now mode because they've invested around Trevor Lawrence. Do you go O-line in a draft, or do you go in free agency on a proven player, because the draft could be a crapshoot and you don't want the same problems over again?
Well, man, I think when I look at the Jaguars, you can cut left tackle Cam Robinson and save like $16 million against the cap, okay? And then they have a second round left tackle right behind him who, when healthy, is actually probably better than Cam Robinson. And then you have right guard Brandon Sheriff, who, if you cut him, you save $10 million, and he's getting older. So right there, that's $26 million you can spend on offensive line on the interior. So, I mean, I would spend on a guy or two, but I would definitely be drafting because I want my guys to stay young. And that's probably the approach that I would take. And heck, maybe one thing that the Jaguars fail to do is that you have Brandon Sheriff, but you don't have any kind of replacement player learning behind him. So maybe, they draft a guy, maybe he can sit behind Brandon Sheriff a little bit. I don't know, but I know that, look, you got to get younger there. You got to continue to invest young guys there because, look, you got to remember, man, like, there's a lot of offensive linemen in the NFL. I mean, every week, if there's no bye weeks, there's 180 starting offensive linemen in the NFL. I mean, you've got to spend and draft at the position. It's very, very important. So yeah, I would do a mix of both.
Awesome. Well, let's hear from Ruben. Last but not least, what is the biggest need in H-Town and why?
Well, there's a lot of needs, man. That's why, oh man, my voice just cracked. That's why it was so crazy. We had this type of success in year one. Just like Derek said, we're talking about stars coming to help CJ Stroud, and on the defense as well. That's what we're talking about, guys like Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs. But when it comes to biggest needs, I think defensive line, more so defensive tackle spot, is what needs to be upgraded for the Houston Texans, because there is no future there. Sheldon Rankins is a free agent. He's in his 30s. You're not going to bring him back. Malik Collins is 29, about to be 30 next year. You have no future right now at the defensive tackle spot. So I think the Texans need to not only get one in free agency, but also get one in the draft, right? That's why we've seen guys like Mel Kiper draft Jerzon Newton, defensive tackle from Illinois, to Houston. Matt Miller did Leonard Taylor, the defensive tackle from Miami, to Houston. They know it's a big need. One of my free agents ones will be Justin Matabuke, defensive tackle from the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think they're going to let him go, but that is someone we are willing to throw the bag at and think this could help transform the Houston Texans defense. But defensive tackle is huge for us. Even though we were one of the top teams in terms of against the run, we saw what Baltimore did to us in the playoffs, and that was not fun to look at. We need to beef it up, and we need to start bringing some talent to the Houston Texans defensive line.
All right, give me your secondary position.
Well, second one will be, I'll stick with the defense, will be cornerback, because you also have no future there as well. Steven Nelson is going to be a free agent looking for his final payday before he's out the league. We're not going to give him that whatsoever. I want to address cornerback in the draft. One guy I am looking at, Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback from Alabama. The other one, Quinion Mitchell, the cornerback from Toledo, had a very good Senior Bowl last week. I think that either of those two guys could fit well with this Houston Texans defense. There is no number 2 corner right now. And you also have to keep in mind that Derek Stingley has not shown you he could play a full 17 games yet, no matter how special he is. So you might have to ask Kool-Aid or Quinyon Mitchell to be your number 1 corner for a couple weeks, like we saw this year when Stingley went down and Steven Nelson had to step up. Cornerback is also one. You will have to get one in for agency. You'll have to get one in the draft as well.
All right, well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. All 4 teams in the AFC South's biggest need and secondary need for each team, all right? Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let your friends and family members know about the AFC South Roundtable. Thank you all for tuning in. We love you. Until next time, peace. We're out.